Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome back to Houselights, our director discussion show here on the Nerd Party Network. We're finishing the house of director Joe Johnston and his work of the 1990s. I'm Darren Homer Moser, and I'm joined again by my friends coal mine foreman John the Slate Mills and Colwood High School math teacher Tristan Riddell. You might need to visit the doctor, Tristan. Be sure the train tracks are empty as we discuss 1999's October Sky. And we'll also talk about why this movie is called October Sky. The month Sputnik was launched as we gaze up from our coal mining facility here. But John, we're going to toss this to you first because this is your first time watching a movie from 1999. Not in general, but this one specifically. And so we haven't done this in a while, but what did you know about this? Did you know anything? Did you know that Jake Gyllenhaal was the lead? Had you seen the poster? Did Chris Cooper's appearance surprise you, or how? Paint the picture.
Actually, Chris Cooper's appearance did surprise me. I can't remember if it was 99, but wasn't American Beauty also out in 1999? Because I remember him
right around there
from the same time period, whether it was 99 or 2000. I remember him in American Beauty, and that was the first time I ever really noticed Chris Cooper as an actor. But so he was a pleasant surprise. I love seeing him on screen because I'm always like, oh, okay. He's always going to deliver a reliably good performance. And it's like, okay, cool. And I'm a big Jake Gyllenhaal fan. I'd seen the poster. Joey, who gets thrown under the bus a whole lot, saw this movie and hounded me for a number of years to see it. He enjoyed it. And he was like, oh, you should see this movie. Oh, you should see this movie. And I remember a discussion I had with him and or other people. It might've been a group of people and he was in it post 9/11, where we all started talking about the premise of the movie about this kid goes out and is building his own rockets. We're like, oh yeah, that'd be shut down nowadays. There's no way they're going to let that fly.
Yeah, the 50s is a little more loose of like, it's a, you found a uninhabited patch of earth. Do it as you will.
Yeah, it's kids exploring and building rockets and learning things.
They're not at home bugging their parents. A-okay in my book. Just
exactly. Don't start any forest fires.
That actually crossed my brain when the mom goes down into the basement and they're clearly, putting stuff together, building machines, talking about explosives, and she's just like, okay, today
dinner's at 6. Love you, honey. It's like, okay.
Today there would be a few more questions.
Are you on a watch list, honey? Because it feels like we're going to get a visit from the FBI, not the county sheriff.
This is the sort of thing though, where it's like there used to be room for kids to be. They were given the benefit of the doubt that what they were doing was not an awful thing. And it's one of those things where you can't help but be a little wistful when you see that sort of thing. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to be overly cautious about when people are dealing with explosives. Obviously, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But there used to be room for kids to sort of really explore things because there was this sense of wonder about it where, okay, the kid's just trying to figure out something. And so it's like it can't help but make you wistful for that type of time period where there was no reason to suspect the kids were doing anything bad. They were just being kids in a basement. And it's like, they're not going to hurt anybody. Or at least they're not going to intend to hurt anybody.
The mom specifically said, don't blow yourselves up. That was her only rule, which is a pretty decent rule for a mom. So
it's a good guideline. I'd say that's a good guardrail to put up around your kids to say, don't blow yourself up. But yeah, I hadn't seen it. It's one of those ones where over time, every so often I would see the poster for it, or
it was your missing frame.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, maybe I should see that. Maybe I should see it. And then you just never get around to it. So I'm glad that I had the opportunity to visit it here. So I'm guessing, Darren, you were a big fan of this from the get-go.
Oh, man, a movie about rockets came out in 99. I was all over this movie.
I'm sure you were.
To no one's surprise. And yeah, I mean, this was, I think, Jake Gyllenhaal's like premiere role as far as like being the lead of a film. He was 17 in this movie, still taking courses on the side, while he's shooting his coal mining scenes. And yeah, I mean, which is awesome seeing his career, because he's definitely like grown now into leading man. But little baby faced Jake, Homer Hickam, looks so great in this movie.
It was actually kind of funny because the new 4K release of Zodiac came out recently, and I watched October Sky in the morning, and I watched Zodiac at night. And it was kind of funny seeing that. I was just like, I didn't plan on that happening, but I was just kind of like, oh yeah, no, he's changed.
Right.
Like, this is different.
A little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. Not much. A little.
Well, I want to jump around some of the other characters. Chris Ellis as the principal, man, he nails this role. I looked through his IMDb credits because he pops up all over the place, and every time he does, he was on Apollo 13. He just delivers every single time. He's not Principal Strickland. He's not like a one note. Like, he has a little arc with the teacher and the boys, and like I like
he
that he defends him.
Annoyed authority.
Right.
Yes.
He's got his crew cut, but I every time he shows up, I love his bit parts. It was so good. And yeah, the moment where he's like, that's a flare. And he's like, okay, I'm on the kid's side now. I'm not gonna, yes, he did, put them in handcuffs.
Well,
and
yeah,
maybe it's a little extreme, but
I think the strength of him as an actor is that he has this, he's able to convey a good nature, right? He's a hard-ass rule follower, but it's because these rules are important. And to your point, it's like when the kids basically exonerate themselves, he's like, okay, they didn't break a rule, and therefore I'm their biggest champion at this moment. And that's a good character to have.
Oh yeah. And then the moment he's like, well, you got to be enrolled in school if you're going to be in the school representing us for the science fair. So yeah. And you were talking, John, about like this era, and not that we don't have science fairs and academies and things like that nowadays, but you really feel like, man, the science fair is there to literally do what this movie does, of like give kids who aren't into sports something to pull them out of their town. That these are the times that you would never leave your town, that you would, so access to information, access to knowledge was so important, and it communicated it really, really well.
It did. It's the same vibe as something like The Last Starfighter, where you're not going to say, exclude an entire town or region. There's got to be somebody in there who has that special spark that can bring something forward. So you're going to have that science fair. You're going to have that outreach program to give them the opportunity to really discover what they're really good at, and hopefully along the way benefit everybody by having that breakthrough. Like I really enjoy the fact that in this movie they focus on the fact that Homer figures out the math equation, why they're innocent. And it's like, if there wasn't that opportunity to explore, he's, like everybody else in the town, it's like, oh, there was a rocket and there was a fire, therefore it's that. And it's like that spark is important.
The police aren't mean. They're drawing a conclusion based off of the evidence, and it's a just conclusion. It's like, oh, there was a fire. Oh, you mean semi near where the boys were shooting rockets for the last month? I wonder where that fire came from.
Although my first reaction, even when I first saw this movie, was, maybe they say that they have the rocket, take a look at it. Like, if I was them, that would have been my first reaction.
That's true. They would have been like, is this your rocket? And they show it to him. But then there would have been no drama, because they would have been like, no, that's not our rocket.
The law enforcement isn't always known for its thoroughness in this area. And I'll just leave it right there, because I support our men and women that are first responders, and would never besmirch their thoroughness.
But you're right.
Especially in that era.
That would have closed that plot hole real quick. So Tristan, take your pick of any of the Rocket Boys. Like, do these feel like real people, like real characters? I mean, again, these are children, older children, but you're still trying to get a performance. Joe Johnston's trying to get this performance out of these kids. And I know that I think initially there were like 6 Rocket Boys, and they kind of combined some of them, which I think is very smart, is often done in these kinds of movies.
I think that's smart too. I think it was, because like 6 would have just been too much, because 4 sometimes felt like a bit much at certain times. But it was no, it was interesting because I liked those actors. I like William Lee Scott, who I remember from Butterfly Effect and Pearl Harbor, and Chad Lindbergh, who's been in tons of stuff. Chris Owen, who I remember from American Pie, and I thought that they all worked well together. And I like how the movie showed that it wasn't just Chris Owen's character Quentin doing all the work because he's the nerd.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like they all had something to do.
It took them a while to get there, but the others, like, they were, they grew to it. It was very Sandlot vibes, just like boys putting it all together. But you're right. It didn't fall into stereotype. Like, oh, well, he's got to do all the math, and he's got to lift the heavy things, and he's got to be the friend that pulls them all together. It's like, yeah, you kind of had that, but it was deeper.
Yeah,
I agree. I think I did like their chemistry together, and it was interesting because I think the real Homer Hickam said that Quentin was actually a good-looking guy and wasn't a nerd at all, but yet the movie made him that way. And that's really interesting, like why they did that, or why they went down that path. I think actually he said that he was the one who was nerdy and not that good looking.
Yeah, and those little videos at the end, he had like glasses and stuff. And I think once you cast Jake Gyllenhaal, it's like, well, we got to reverse that, because it's just if he's going to put glasses on, he's going to become Clark Kent, and we can't have that. So,
well, I mean, it's sort of like only one man covers up Tom Hardy's face, and that man's name is, of course, Christopher Nolan. Everybody else recognizes you don't cover up Tom Hardy's face. When you have Jake Gyllenhaal, you don't cover up that face, man. No,
even with glasses, no.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. The need to have the nerd character it's a convenient trope that plays into also the time period. Whereas like it's just easy shorthand for the audience to be like, oh, look, that is the smart one that brings it out of everybody. Like everybody understands that visual shorthand. And so it's, you got to have the one character that's that way, that looks that way.
It's
so
relatable in that way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I practically felt like Hogarth Hughes from The Iron Giant was going to walk around the corner. Like he would have fit right in with these kids. A little young, but it looked just like that.
Yeah, it did. It's interesting because if there's one thing that I think through this whole House of Johnston thing that's very interesting is his movies really, like, as you follow this trajectory and you look at them, it really seems strange that a director is so stuck always portraying that 40s to 60s time period. And like, even when we go forward, even though we're not discussing it, to Captain America, it's like you look at October Sky and you look at the beginning of Jumanji and you look at The Rocketeer, and even beyond all of the technical mastery and those sorts of things, you get to Captain America and it's like, who are we going to direct for this? Well, who's really directed this time period a whole lot? Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll get Joe Johnston.
So he got it for the time period. That's fun.
Yeah, basically.
Well, and this movie, I mean, it's definitely not on the same vibe as the other movies you just listed. Like, it's not a comedy. It's a serious drama. Like, it has its moments for sure, but it's a very different tonally. So Tristan, with the tone of this, it's a father-son story as well. And man, like the scenes between Chris Cooper and Jake Gyllenhaal are like, I feel like there should be more. We see a lot of Chris Cooper when he's not with his family, for sure. But
yeah, I wish that they made the dad a little bit less one-dimensional, personally, because he kind of reeks of the wrong kid dad, energy.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because when I found out, when I read about, Homer Hickam's life a little bit more, and you find out that his dad was, obviously he wasn't a cartoon, he wasn't a movie character, so he was three-dimensional, was a reader, he was smarter than they portrayed, he was much more of a thinker. And I feel like that would have given such a better dynamic because, with the dad being a thinker, being a well-read individual, but still couldn't get out of the town, adds so much more depth to his concern with his son, chasing dragons, or where it's just like, how, like, I'm trying to protect you. You're not, like, I couldn't get out of this town from reading, and I don't think you'll be able to either. So just embrace this lifestyle. Just like grab happiness where you can. That, I feel like that would have been a much better relationship than what we got, because it was very much wrong kid died and I don't want your life, So it was, yeah.
I agree.
That's kind of where I come from.
No, I completely agree. And it's I think it's a misstep. And I think that it probably speaks to something that I think we've sussed out a little bit about Johnston. Like, if you look at the breadth of his work, it's all going to depend on a couple of key things. And even if you look at Jumanji, if you look at even Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, it's somebody who's getting the shots and knows how to tell the story, but isn't necessarily getting to that level that you're talking about, Tristan. Where I think that in story conferences in the beginning, it would be a different director would have sat down with Chris Cooper and done what you're talking about, where it's like, we want to portray his dad as somebody who is frustrated. He's not an antagonist to his son. He's literally motivated by protecting his son because he's a realist. Right. Yeah. He couldn't escape, and he doesn't want his son to feel the same pain he did at not being able to leave. He wants his kid just to be like, you got to get rid of this dumb idea, because I know how much it hurt when I found out I couldn't go, and I read, and like, I understand that I'm just going to be a coal miner. And, it opens up a sort of thing. And all I'll say about it is that sometimes I feel very conflicted in a movie like this because of the fact that there's this element when it's in the real world where
based on a true story.
Yeah. Right. But very much in a real world I know exists, where a profession is portrayed in such a way that it's like a quote unquote bad life. And it's like, it may be from certain perspectives, but to your point, Tristan, there's even a line that Chris Cooper has at one point where Jake Gyllenhaal is talking to his mom about like what this mine gave him, and was just a quarter size mass on his lung. And he comes in and he's like, I'll tell you what this mine gave me, and the implication being this house you're living in, the food you're eating, all of that stuff. Don't be so quick to dismiss. And it's like, I would have liked that to be explored as well, where it's like, it's not, oh, we're all a bunch of dumb idiots. It's like, no, we're doing what's necessary to provide for our families. Not everybody gets to, sometimes your dream simply has to be providing, and you don't get to do the cool thing, and you got to be okay with that. Like, it sort of ties into what you're talking about, where it's like, and it just feels like the profession itself is sort of like, it almost has this accidental elitism about it, where it's like, oh, they're just coal miners. And it's, and if they didn't do their job, you'd kind of be screwed. So maybe a little more respect would be in place.
Well, there's definitely a 21st century lens looking back on this time period. It's so easy for us to be like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, now we know, oh my gosh, company town, they own everything. This is terrible. It's like, but put yourself in the context of that time. And it's just a father providing for his family and making choices and sacrifices. And he had some depth, but there were more single notes than there were chords in his character. And I think we all agree, like, and I think Chris Cooper could have played it. He totally could have delivered that if that had been coaxed out of him from the story, from the timing. This movie is only 107 minutes. It moves along at a pretty quick pace. So
I think too quick a pace. I really think that
more family time around the table to kind of digest into that.
I think this movie is about, what would you change? I think that there needed to be more runtime for more time for things to breathe, to talk about the stuff that like Tristan is getting at, about giving the dad more time and more depth. The movie is so concerned. If the movie feels so concerned with its runtime that it sort of speeds past these things we would have liked it to slow down around. Like it has these moments like when Homer's dad goes over and stops the stepdad from beating up his friend.
Love that moment.
It's tremendous, but then it's just sort of like, and that's a thing that happened and it moves on. It's like, I would have liked to maybe spend more time around that.
Yeah. Or like, by the time we're dealing with the strike and things like that, our attention is now at the science fair. I would have loved to have seen the perspective of him going into the union meeting and standing up and saying his piece to everyone and making seeing the convincing speech that convinced them to come back. Instead, it's all, oh yeah, that happened over there. We didn't see it. Like that would have been amazing for his character. And really I don't know what the speech would have been. It's kind of a cop out to just like, oh yes, he said something amazing and they were inspired and it happened, off screen.
Well, since they even fictionalized, stuff about the movie, you could have given him a moment where he talks about why they're going on strike and he says, have it address the pay, where it's like, I can't even send my boy to the science fair that's going to get him out of here because they don't pay us enough so I can send him across country. And that becomes a really sympathetic moment for the audience to be like, yeah, pay them enough to send Homer off to the science fair, that sort of thing.
Well, and maybe this is just conjecture, but maybe they were holding too much. I'm curious if you guys agree. If they were holding too much to that moment where the dad shows up at the end, maybe they had that moment in their mind of like, and then the dad came to see the last rocket and they didn't want to do anything to pre-evolve his character before that moment. And that moment happens so late in the movie that you're already kind of done. So like having that moment about sending him to, pay and sending him to the fair, that's like, oh, that's too early. We got to have him totally be committed to the mine until the 11th hour. And then he gets to push, which it's a great moment, but maybe they were clinging to that too much.
And then at the same time, it's just like when Homer comes out and says like, it's like, oh, that so-and-so isn't my hero. You are. Is he?
Yeah. I was kind of calling BS on that too. Yeah.
That felt like such an unearned moment. It like whether it's true or not with the real Homer, that's fine. But in the movie, that felt like a very unearned moment.
It felt like a moment that they felt obligated to have in there.
Yeah.
Or
it could have been something like, he's not my hero, but you've been here for us, Dad. Like not saying you're my hero, but like him recognizing the dad's sacrifice. Something in between. Yeah. It wasn't really earned.
Yeah. It's tough because there are so many elements of this that this very much, I'm not trying to tip my hand here, but there are so many things about this that are, it's the type of movie where you're looking at it and you're like, these elements, I know they could gel differently. I know that they could come together.
There's
like
a good movie in here somewhere.
It's almost like a puzzle where you can arrange it in two different ways and you put it together and you're like, all the pieces fit. And this is how the puzzle looks like this. But there's a part of you that's like, well, I want to take this apart and see how the puzzle looks if somebody else puts it together in a different way to see if I like that puzzle more, right? Using the exact same pieces, or maybe you find a space for a couple more pieces because it's, I know that this is hard to really think about in the post, Black Panther and even Deadpool, like making February a cool month to release things in. But the simple fact that this was released in February of 1999.
This should have been a Christmas release, like the family movie. Like that's where I would have stuck it if possible.
But January and February before the landscape changed, that was where you dumped the movies where you were pretty sure they weren't going to do great. And you released your Christmas movies where you were like, we're fine with it not doing financially great, but it's going to win us some awards. And then January was like, all right, nobody's really paying attention. Drop the movie here. And February was sort of the same way. And then March would be like, people are spring breaking and stuff like that. And so they got some more free time to go see a movie. So I think the release date, I think Universal sensed something about sort of like what we're talking about here, where they saw it and they're like, this is never going to do gangbusters. Because we've talked about the box office for Johnston before. And it's like Rocketeer gets screwed by its release date.
Yeah.
Jumanji
does
fine. But then this very much feels like a conscious decision to be like, yeah, we're going to put, because 99, they know full well, everybody knows full well, it's going to be the summer of Star Wars, May 1999.
And that's also
so,
Matrix. Like there were some bangers in 99. Like they gobbled up the landscape.
Nobody knew Matrix was going to do what it was going to do.
Just saying,
but
it did. Yeah.
That was March. And it was like, that could have done well. So we should stay away from that too.
Well, yeah, I don't know what the domestic box office was, but the budget was 25 million. The worldwide was 35. So it did not do very well.
No, not really.
But maybe a bit of a bump in home rentals because it's probably found a little bit of a second life, I would think. It's that kind of a movie. You're looking around your Blockbuster and you're like, oh, October Sky. I don't know what that means, but it's got a cute boy on the front. So let's check it out.
Now, see, that's interesting because you were talking about the title, October Sky, and saying it's tied to Sputnik. But apparently it was originally going to be called Rocket Boys after the book. But then the marketers decided that the lady folk wouldn't see a movie called Rocket Boys.
Yeah, I think Rocket Boys sounds like a better title, but
I disagree. I think October Sky is way cooler than Rocket Boys, and I also love that October Sky is an anagram for Rocket Boys, and they didn't even know it when they.
Nobody knows
came up
that,
with it.
Tristan. Nobody knows.
They know it now because they listened here on Houselights. Yes,
that's not the end of the podcast, John. Keep talking.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Well, let's jump to the score for a moment. It's by Mark Isham, who I don't think we've actually seen any of his pieces before. But this is a lovely score. Like, man, the ending always gets me. Like when there's some moments and it's tugging on the heartstrings. And it's conveying that kind of they're not twanging the banjo. We're not in the upper hills of West Virginia. It stays away from that, but it's a really nice score. I enjoy it. Maybe not enough to buy a soundtrack and constantly re-listen, but I think it serves the movie really well.
I think it does exactly what it's supposed to do. And the ending, listen, I'm sort of like, does that movie Analyze This? I'm like Robert De Niro's character in that, where I'm like, I'm crying during the commercial. I don't know why. So the music is just right at the ending, where it's like, it still gets me where I'm like, oh yeah, these guys, right? But we almost came across Mark Isham. His score was rejected for Waterworld. Oh. And so we were close there. And maybe we might remember him from anything else. No, I don't think we did.
I was gonna say the name doesn't sound familiar, but
he did. I know he did the score for Time Cop, but we didn't watch that for this, nor will we. Nor will we. Really, I don't think we plan to. But it's a perfectly fine score. Like you're saying, it's not something where I'm like, oh, I got to go out and get the 180 gram vinyl Mondo re-release of this. But it's good. It's a good score.
What do you think, Tristan? Good score? Bad score?
Serviceable. I think it's fine. I think it fits. It works. This is a drama, but it's a lighthearted drama. Like I was about to say no one's going to die, but actually a few people die. The stakes aren't super high, and so the music portrays that. And I like it. I think it works. I don't say serviceable as a mean thing. It's just like there's so many times we will review movies that have just stellar scores. This is not one of those, but it's not bad either. It's not distracting, and it's not completely forgettable either.
I'm actually going through his filmography and trying to figure out like what he's done. And what's funny is because I think, Tristan, you made a reference to like the Varsity Blues sort of thing earlier, and he did the score for Varsity Blues. So
of course he did.
There you go.
I don't want your laugh.
Your life. Yes. But yeah, I mean, it's a good score. And the thing is, in terms of even the way that it's shot, I don't know the name, what was it, Fred Murphy too well, but actually, it's the same sort of thing where it's like, it's photographed pretty well, like it's set up nicely. And I think, I don't know, you guys can feel free to disagree with me, but like, I still feel like I could look at this and be like, yeah, this feels like Joe Johnston directed it. So it feels like a director who's definitely got a visual sensibility about him, where a cinematographer isn't like pushing him around or has too much of a say. Like, this is a director saying to his cinematographers, this is how I want it to look, like, or am I reading too much into it?
Well, and it's a lot of outdoors too, like a lot of outdoors. I think they shot in Tennessee was the primary filming location, but I mean, it's all over there. I wasn't like, wait a minute, that isn't West Virginia mountains. But yeah, I'm always impressed again. This is pre everything must be dark. Like, we're in the coal mine and I can still clearly see Homer's face. I can clearly tell what's going on. Even the nighttime shots, like when they're at the sock hop or whatever, like I can see everything. I can tell what's going on. So bravo. That's all I want, guys. That's all I want. So I want to be able to see the movie I'm paying, was it $7 for, or whatever it was. And I'm going to blank on the actor's name. The metal worker who dies. Gosh, why am I?
Oh yeah, that guy.
Character actor pops up everywhere.
Character actor who pops up everywhere and has
His last name is Baskin.
Baskin. Yeah. That's it.
But the facial structure that he has, like especially in this time period, there's almost a part of you that like there's a lizard brain part of you after seeing him in so many similar roles where you're like, oh, he's a Russian spy. Like that second you have in your brain. Yeah,
he does. He shows up everywhere. I mean, he's the year before, or like 2 years, he was Air Force One bad guy there. He's been in 13 Days, all over the place.
I promise you, in 13 Days, he was not part of the Kennedy administration, but somebody that they were arguing with. I'll promise you that. That is actually the side note. That's actually a pretty good movie. If anybody wants to see it, 13 Days.
I love 13 Days.
Another good period movie.
I love 13 Days.
Despite Kevin Costner's accent. Yeah. Make allowances.
But 2010 and Spider-Man. Okay, sorry. I'm getting off his IMDb. But yes, I like this little role and the little moment. And they used it, to enhance the dad's character a little bit, because Homer in the throes of youth is like, oh, he died because of me and because of this. And his dad's like, no, I offered him this and I did this. And it's called making choices,
I want to ask you guys, like, I love Laura Dern as an actress. I do. But sometimes she's distracting because I know she's Laura Dern.
Like, there's Laura Dern. That's not the teacher.
I'm instantly drawn out. Like, do you think that casting Laura Dern was, again, not taking anything away from her as an actress, but like it instantly took me out of the movie because I'm like, oh, that's Laura Dern. Like there's almost like this quality about her where it's almost like a when let's say they had Jack Nicholson in a teacher role, or Jack Nicholson plays
like
the principal.
Harrison Ford, and it's just like, that's Harrison Ford. I'm sorry,
right?
Indiana Jones is working at your school for some reason, but sure.
Everybody else is an actor I can lose for however many moments I need, but the minute Laura Dern walks on there and smiles, I'm like, oh, that's Laura Dern. Or am I just? It's because I love Laura Dern that I just pay too much attention to her. Did you guys get taken out at all by Laura Dern in it?
I don't know. I think this is the most we've heard the word Laura Dern on this podcast.
I'm trying to say it at least five. I'm trying to say it at least 5 more times before the podcast is up. I'm going for the Guinness Book of World Records.
So. No, I'm with you, John. Not so much that it's like, oh, it's Laura Dern. It's just, I don't know.
It was an actress. It didn't slip into the role.
Yeah, I feel like it could have been better cast. I feel like somebody different, and there's also, again, I have no idea if this is real, but that moment when she just like walks away from him and doesn't even listen to him like call her name, like the dude's dad was in a mining accident. He has to save his family, and you're just going to reject him in that moment. And
Yeah.
I know that she, apologized for it, which was nice. But at the same time, like, really?
You are not teacher of the year.
Yes.
I just feel like it could have been someone more teacher-esque, and I just don't get that from Dern.
Well, again, I mean, maybe with a little bit longer runtime, more scenes with her. Like, we get just enough to establish she is his teacher, and that's about it. Like, she's kind of mentoring a little bit, but I could use more for sure, and all the little pieces.
Yeah. Laura Dern. That's
Dern.
3 times. Only 2 more
All
times before we go.
Now she's gonna show up. So, all right, as we're rounding third again with let's talk about Jake Gyllenhaal, which we've obviously mentioned. I think he does a really good job in the lead of this. Like, he's carrying this movie, not in a way like the others aren't. It's not like it's all on his shoulders, but he is the lead of this movie. He is in almost every shot. He is very much the protagonist. There's none of that confusion. Even when they're like, well, I wonder who's going to get sent to the fair at the end. It's like, we know who's getting sent.
Yeah,
of course.
Right.
Of course it's Homer. And I believe in our research, they actually changed his name, or no, they changed the dad's name.
Right.
Because he was Homer Hickam and Homer Hickam Jr., and they thought American audience would be confused by that. They are right. That totally would have been confusing in all of the talk. So Jack Hickam is way easier to distinguish. The juniors that, But I think Jake does a good job, even with the puppy love of the navigating friendships. Maybe because he's so young, I didn't have any issues with him slipping into this role. What did you guys think?
I mean, it's hard for me to be critical of Gyllenhaal because I think that he is just a really talented, not to overuse the word, but gifted. He's a gifted actor. Like, I look at this Jake Gyllenhaal, and then I look at the Jake Gyllenhaal who a couple of years later is in Donnie Darko. And then I look at Jake Gyllenhaal from, why am I blanking?
Enemy,
Zodiac.
Zodiac.
Zodiac. Yeah, from Zodiac, and Nightcrawler and all of those things, and former boyfriend of Taylor Swift. And I'm like, he's a fantastic actor. Like he, if anything, this demonstrates that all the way back then he was able to disappear into a role, even though I know who he is. There's no. I'd say he's one of those rare sort of like, I don't want to use the term, but like a heartthrobby type of actor. Like, he's a very attractive person, but then you forget that he's this attractive actor. You believe that he's that character. And I believed he was Homer Hickam Jr. in this. I believe that's who he was. And I know he works very hard at it, but he's a gifted actor in the sense that it feels effortless. I'll have that the contrast, and just so I can get up the total number of her mentions of her name. The contrast between Laura Dern in this and Jake Gyllenhaal is I never lose Laura Dern, but I lose Jake Gyllenhaal at points, and I believe he's Homer.
All right. Well, we know who Homer is. Now is the question on everyone's mind: who is Lance Reddick playing? Is he going to be one of the Rocket Boys? Is he working down in the mine? There's lots of side characters. Maybe even Von Braun. But let's start with you, Tristan. Where did you place good Sir Lance Reddick?
I would have made him Miss Riley.
Oh, going for the teacher.
Yeah, I would have made him his teacher. I think he would have made a great, think Noah Wyle in Donnie Darko. I think that's how Lance Reddick would have played it in this one, where he kind of has a combative relationship with the principal. He can hold his own, just like, Riley does, which I liked. Like those were the moments of Dern that I liked in the movie. But I feel like Lance Reddick would have knocked it out of the park and would have disappeared a little bit more in the role. And that's my choice, is the teacher.
All right, the teacher role. What about you, John?
I would not have replaced Miss Riley, but I would have kept him on the school admin, and I would have made him Principal Turner, because I could have bought him in that role as well. Very much the straight arrow who is a rule follower but has a good heart, and so when the chips are down, is going to support the students and get them the help that they need to accomplish their goals. So I would have Lance Reddick as Principal Turner.
You guys are making me want to see Lance Reddick in a crew cut, and I really want to see Lance Reddick in a crew cut. I think it's going to look amazing. All right. Yeah, I almost went the school route, but I think I want to give him the small moments that Elia Baskin had as Ike Kurvsky. Oh man, there's all sorts of syllables there. But I think, just that little friendship, between Homer and him, which, unfortunately went into tragedy. But, I could just see him kind of like, I can't do, work on the company time, or I want to help you, Homer. But, just that mentor. Like, Homer's got a lot of mentors in his life. He's very fortunate that he has a lot of people pulling for him.
Yeah. Also, like the guy who was the red tail. He did a lot for them.
more than a little, for sure. More than a little. That is true. That is true. It feels, yes, a lot of recognition necessary there. I agree.
All right. Well, now as we are finished with our Lance Reddicks, John, we're going to bounce it back to you. First time viewing this. I can pull up your other Joe Johnstons if that helps. But how did you rate this? It's not the comedy. It's a lot of drama.
I can honestly say that this is a 3. It's a solid 3. It's a good movie. It does not approach a great movie, but it's a good movie. This is the type of movie where I could sit down and say, "Hey kids, let me show you this. This is a good, inspiring story." But there are enough issues with its dramatic depth that I think that Johnston might have been the wrong director for this story, because this doesn't have the opportunity for the charm of The Rocketeer, the sort of impish inventiveness of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, or the manic joy of Robin Williams in Jumanji, even, which is a movie I also gave a 3. But I very much feel like Johnston at this point is just, I don't see him as in love with the material as I would want the director to be. I don't see him infusing anything into it that elevates it. So it's a 3.
Yeah, I'm also going to give it a 3. I mean, for the same reasons. It's a solid movie. I watch it, very rarely. It's not like on my circuit of like, oh, I got to watch October Sky again. But, every time I do, I enjoy it. I enjoy the it tugs at my heartstrings in all the right places. But it's not enough to be like, oh man, I got to watch this once a year because it's just so memorable. So maybe it would be a 3.5 if I gave half stars, but I'm not. So it's still a 3. But what about you, Tristan? How many rockets are you firing into this one?
Well, it looks like this is going to be 3 across the board. You guys echo what I'm saying. Like this is a good movie. This is a solid movie, but it's just short of being really special. And I debated whether or not to give it 3.5 because I feel like this movie is charming, and this was before the pictures that we got that got really tropey. Like this was kind of just ahead of the curve a little bit before we started getting tropey with real life stories in this realm. And so I give it a little bit of grace, but 3 for the reasons that we mentioned, which is a good score. This is a good 3. But just not enough to get it to greatness.
All right. And with that, we've rounded out this House of Joe Johnston. And boy, it's been a ride. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Rocketeer, Jumanji, and October Sky. That is quite the roulette.
I just want to point out that 3 of the 4 involve very sciencey sort of things. So there's definitely Johnston gravitates toward, and we know that in the future for him from this point forward is Jurassic Park 3, genetic engineering, and Captain America, also genetic engineering. So he's definitely sort of like a nerd filmmaker. So kudos to you, Mr. Johnston.
I was going to say, this is the most realistic of all his movies that we've seen so far, as far as like actually things that could happen.
That is true.
There's not a lot of fantasy. But yes, as we close out on Joe Johnston next week, we start a new house here. We're going into the world of animation with director Don Bluth as we start with The Secret of Nim here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.